Hello everybody, welcome to another Alternative Interactions. I'm Gary. First of all, a big thank you to everybody who leaves comments. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I've responded to everybody, but I really do appreciate your love and support on the channel. It's grown really quickly and it wouldn't be possible without you guys, so thank you very much. This is and please like, share and subscribe. I don't think I said that just yet, but please do. This is an update to the Trump Zelensky fallout. One of the comments, or a couple of the comments, have been, what's the history behind this? And there was quite an interesting history to the country that Zelensky lives in, as well as some more developments which are, I wouldn't say worrying, because if you watch my Project Looking Glass, you know that everything's going to be fine. So really this is just to decode the theatre in which we're watching, the games and the play. And if you understand a bit more what's going on, you can just go, idiots. They really are. And you can see the selfishness and pure greed that is behind what's going on currently, and it really is stupid, and it's probably there just to wake as many people up and cause as much fear and panic as well in equal measures. So what I'm going to tell you is it's nothing to worry about. It's no fear. It's just what I'm seeing or what my observations are to what's going on, and it's going to get very interesting in a very strange kind of way, I think, very soon, So less of the waffle. So let's go on to the history of the country that Zelensky lives in, I won't say it too often. I'll try not to, because obviously algorithms and such like are not our friends still. So there we go. So around the Middle Ages, in the region that's now known as the country, there was a group of individuals who were not particularly nice. The sigil can still be seen today in the Ukrainian flag and on Zelensky's chest. And it's a U. It's a three-pointed sort of trident, and this actually goes all the way back to Moloch and some of the quite foul things that are associated with the name and term Moloch. And again, we may go into that kind of thing in the future, but at the moment, for those of you who are interested, just do a little bit of research on Moloch and the sigil and the sort of things that I used to get up to in those times with those kind of people. So we had this region which was being ruled and controlled by a very dark entity, and the location of this region was quite beneficial in many ways during this Middle Ages period that I'm now talking about. Because trade routes used to kind of go through there, and these people were able to kind of cut from Ukraine all the way up and kind of make a line. So any trade coming this way or coming up would actually go through the country I probably just said it, and so it gave them quite a logistical advantage in certain aspects. Now obviously trade, most of it went by sea at that time, very little overland, but what did go overland were the merchants themselves. And so say somebody, you needed to trade something from one end to the other, and they were, say, going to the United Kingdom or England, they would travel from, say, Turkey, wherever, the East, the Ottoman Empire, let's put it that way. Not there was a lot of trade going on between the two at the time, because obviously there was quite a lot of bits and pieces going on, but just for argument's sake. And so we had this trade route going on where merchants would travel up from one region to another to do a deal. And often the merchant would go up. They'd obviously communicated by letter, so it was all set up. And the merchant would turn up, and the merchant would do the deal, get paid, and the merchant would go back, and then the goods would be sent via ship to wherever it was going, or overland if it was close enough. Now, this region of U realised that there was an opportunity, and this area became known as the Name Stealers. And the Name Stealers is quite nefarious, to say the least. So a merchant would travel, stop at an inn for the night, and the Name Stealers would sidle up to them, drug them, and get all the information out of these people that they could. Now, that merchant would not leave that guest house or inn because he was murdered, and the Name Stealers would take on his identity with the information they'd gained and would go on to make the deal. They would get paid the gold or the silver or the jewels or whatever it was that the deal was. They would then return back to the country of U with their goods, having stolen the name of the poor victim. And this started to become quite epidemic in nature. And so it got to a point where fundamentally the conflict between Christians and Muslims, the Ottoman Empire, was heating up to a stage. And we had this region in the middle of the Name Stealers who actually were still obviously worshipping Moloch, but that wasn't particularly recognised by the Christians or the Muslims. And so they were given an ultimatum, the area was, either convert to one religion or the other and fight for one or the other sides. Now, the Name Stealers were not interested in doing any of that. And what they actually did, and what they actually chose to do, was they took on the Jewish religion. And so made themselves in effect neutral to the Muslim and Christian problems. Now, we now currently know these people as the Khazarian Mafia, because the Name Stealers were fundamentally the Khazarians, and they continue to cause problems to this day. Nothing changed. These guys are connected to the banking organisations and nefarious things that have been going on for some time. And I think I should probably leave that there. Now, I want to go on to the current situation in the country U, with the UK and the debacle that happened with Zelensky and Trump. And there's a little bit more information that's come through from that, which I think is quite interesting and very worrying as well, potentially. But again, don't worry. This is it's concerning, but I do believe that this is going to sort itself out, because I can't see America and Donald Trump being dragged into a conflict with Russia, particularly as Donald Trump or the Americans are currently in the process of sorting out a deal for the vast amount of precious minerals, oil and gas that sits in Russia. And Russia have told America that they're happy for them to come in and mine these materials, providing they pay for the setup costs, which is a lot cheaper than fighting a war. So to go back to the Fallout Decode that I did last time, I'm only going to brush over it very briefly. For all the details, please go back and watch it. But obviously the UK in January 2025 signed a deal with Zelensky for port access and mineral rights stroke gas oil. Now there was a geological survey done in Ukraine, and Ukraine does not hold the kind of minerals that are required, particularly by anybody in quantity, and it's dubious whether the cost of the mining would actually pay for the materials. However, the gas, the food production, the wheat and such like, is of great importance, and fundamentally the deal that Keir Starmer, yes, he signed for his Khazarian masters. Let's not beat around the bush here. He's just a puppet and a signature face of what's going on. The man has no real power, credibility or credence, and he's just fulfilling his master's orders. And so, you know, we have to look at this as there are certain puppets and players that have no real power, even though they think they do, and he's one of them. And clearly my disdain for what he represents and the political class in the United Kingdom currently can't be stated enough, with some of the heinous things that they're currently doing for towards the disabled and the pensioners. And those in the UK would know that, but obviously because of the current laws that we now face, I don't feel I can probably expand on that, because I don't want to get shut down or arrested. That's quite shocking. So anyway, the deal was signed with Zelensky, and it was a 100-year deal on the ports and such like, and I think it's just over 2 billion per year. Now, Russia has been very clear that no NATO troops are to set foot in the country U, and certainly if we're talking about a peace or ceasefire or peace treaty, a resolution to the war, that is obviously a red line or a line in the sand that cannot be crossed, and Russia won't take. Now, it's very interesting that Zelensky was going around saying that there'd be no deal, no ceasefire, no deal, no deal, no deal, and was trying to get, via that debacle with Trump, trying to get Trump to sign a document to provide military backup to him so that he could carry on the war for his masters. And let's be fair, Zelensky works for exactly the same people as the British Prime Minister does. There is no difference. They both work for exactly the same people, same organisation, same financial backing. There is no difference. So what we now have is a situation in country U where the United Kingdom, having signed a deal with Zelensky, feels it now needs to start putting troops into the country U to start to gain traction and momentum and something tangible from the agreement they've signed for the billions and billions of pounds. Now, the problem is, as I just mentioned, that the United Kingdom is part of NATO. And as soon as the United Kingdom start putting troops into the country U, that is a declaration of war to Russia. Now, it has been reported that the UK currently has special forces troops in the four major docks to take control of the four major docks or ports in Ukraine. Russia clearly will know all about this, far more than I do, or what I'm telling you. I mean, I'm only skimming over the surface of something, but I don't think Russia are very happy. And from what I've seen, Russia have actually turned around to Donald Trump and said, can you sort these snivelling snots out before we do? Now, this then highlights very clearly Zelensky's betrayal of America and the support that America has given Zelensky. Now, obviously, the Biden era, because Biden, of course, is working for the same people as Zelensky and Europe and the UK, fundamentally. So it was one big happy family. And, of course, now Trump's come in. It's deflated the tyre somewhat, and Trump is the sharp tack that's punctured that tyre. And so they've tried to trick America into backing Zelensky militarily, and that hasn't worked. So they've now signed a pact with the UK, potentially Europe will be dragged into this, for that kind of backing. And so you can kind of see that the tentacles of this Moloch-based Khazarian death cult who are in charge of the financial situation at the moment, which is of course part of our slavery system as well. And again, I've covered this in previous videos. So you can see how it all kind of links in very nicely to each other, which is quite kind of sad in many respects. But we have this very, very interesting situation where the UK, via our Zionist masters, wish to make sure that their investment pays off. And the only way they can do that is via British troops. And that is the red line that Russia will not take. So we're currently, I should imagine diplomatically, at a very interesting point where everybody is getting quite irate with the situation, and there probably has to be some kind of pinch point or sorting out. This could even go down to the line of the fact that Russia has all the minerals. America wants the minerals. Could Russia actually and America side with each other on this one? You know, European-wise, Poland's very interested in a lot of the territory of Ukraine for growing food, and so are all the other countries around it. Will the country EU exist in a few years' time? Or will it just be being taken over by the countries around it in some kind of agreement, and such like? I mean, it's very clear through Zelensky's actions. He's stopped the elections, arrested all the opposition leaders, and he's even arrested and murdered US press to stop stories coming out about him and what he's been up to. So when Donald Trump used the word dictatorship, I think he was absolutely correct. But Zelensky isn't the dictatorship, he's just the puppet. The dictatorship is the one standing behind him, which is the same dictatorship that is behind most of Europe and the UK. So I kind of hope that I've made some sense there, that we're about to see potentially an escalation in the war of words or some potential actions going on, while the dark players in the background flex and ripple their muscles. So yeah, hopefully that kind of makes sense where we are currently. We're in a situation where the UK is actually flouting international law. Not that it makes any difference. They write their own rules as they go along. But clearly Russia is getting very irate, and Zelensky is playing the role that he's been given, running around, trying to cause as much trouble as possible to fortify his position which is of nothing, just like many of these current politicians we have. So, and that could also, as a side point, explain why Mark Carney has been put in charge of Canada, because Mr. Carney is part of this mafia. He's part of the Committee of 300, and he really is not anybody's friend apart from his masters. And so he's quite a high-ranking dumb elite, and hence why he's been put in that position to shore up and potentially back up the UK if something happens. But the other side point to this is currently the UK doesn't have enough arms, armament, soldiers, or anything to do anything against Russia. And that's kind of the big joke, you know, the thing that the press and the mainstream won't tell you, is the UK has a teeny-weeny tiny military force that has no ability to go to the country U and take on Russia in any way, shape or form. It's just a joke. And I'm pretty sure most of Europe's the same, which is why they're also stealing everyone's private pension money. So we have organisations like BlackRock and Vanguard and such like, who own the military industrial complex fundamentally, and also control our pensions, private pension money. And it's certainly been said in the UK, and I think that foul creature of a woman who's in charge of the EU has said so, that they're going to steal and take people's private pension money and pay it into the industrial military complex to arm themselves and sort themselves out so they're in a position to carry on this war. The thing is, though, it takes quite a long while to build these kind of armaments, and I don't believe that we have the infrastructure, the ability or the materials, particularly in silver. And that then links back to the silver situation that we currently have with the financials, which is a very interesting and developing one, where we have all the major banks who are Khazarian run or cabal owned and run by the same group of people, who are short on silver, that they've said. And if suddenly everyone wants, or a percentage, a fairly small percentage in fact, wants their silver in physical form, the banks will collapse due to a run on the silver that they don't have, because that silver is being pumped into the military complex, and the military complex is sucking out all the additional silver and client silver that these banks don't have. So they're broken the law and they're in fraud as well, which is like the whole money situation anyway, isn't it? So again, please look at some of my previous videos. I do cover these kind of things, but haven't linked them all together kind of the way I have in this. And I'm aware I don't want to be too long because concentration, and it gets a bit sort of tedious. So I'll leave it there. But if you've got any more questions, please feel free to ask in the comments. This is an update of that situation and where we're going currently. And please don't worry. Please have no fear or concerns. As I say, observe but do not absorb. There's no need to absorb the fear or the energy of this kind of theatre playing out in front of us. Because ultimately we know from Project Looking Glass that we win. We've already won. But these people, these entities, are going to try and cause the maximum amount of disturbance and fear and crisis while they go out. The head of the snake has been cut off. We currently have the bodies thrashing around causing damage, and that's all we're seeing. I hope that's of help, and I hope you've enjoyed that and it's kind of made sense. So thank you very much. Just a last piece for those that have actually managed to get all the way through. Tomorrow I'll be uploading a video on orphan trains, and my alternative view of the meaning of the part of the reason why we had these orphan trains and where these orphans came from. And again, this is a program, a plan that was hatched by exactly the same people I've just been talking about. So hopefully you'll find that one interesting and not too dark, but it's quite an interesting, slightly different take on what's been shown before on orphan trains and such like. So with that, thank you very much. Blessings, everybody. I do appreciate you watching and your support. Love, light and blessings. Bye, everyone.